revolution is televised.
We from Baltimore, 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 we from Baltimore.
Today's episode of the KB Podcast has been brought to you by the letter C for the 2025 Capitol Congress. Here's the host of the KB Podcast, KB, the people's sidekick. What in the actual... Lord Jesus, help me, save me.
What's up, people? Guess it's time to ring the alarm because the revolution will be televised tonight. Welcome to the 7th installment of the KB Podcast, and I am your host, KB, the people's sidekick, and hope you all are doing all right this week. We have a lot on our plate to get through in this week's episode, so let's recap the week leading to tonight. Of course, it started with the Mothership event on Tuesday, Project Mambo at the Spot. It was a bittersweet one, as it was my DJ Mambo Soul's going away event. Some of our legends in the scene came through to spread love, like the awesome Tanya Smith, the Godfather Go-Go Earl Rush, DJ Dola, DJ Mino, DJ Fillaboy. All of them were there, just to name a few. It was a great way to begin his send-off tour, and I'm looking forward to the next leg of that tour. Take as many trips as you like. You deserve it, my brother. Okay, so we will be down to 2 installments of Project Mambo at the Spot at the time of this podcast, which also means that we're weeks away from answering a question that I've been asked a lot since the announcement that our DJ was leaving. And now I think it's time that we let you all in on what that is. So, for the future of Tuesday nights at the Spot going forward, stay around after my interview with Shaka Brown to find out. But enough recap. We have arrived in the month of June, and it's a pretty exciting time to be in the scene because right now we approach the event that is the 2025 Capitol Congress. Because of that, I am really excited to talk about tonight's guest. My guest at this time is a man that, if you have been around the scene for a while, or if you've been around it for a little bit, is someone that actually needs no introduction. Known all around our area as an awesome instructor and promoter, he is entering his 20th year and giving us this awesome event. He is also someone that's a good person just to listen to. So if I were you guys, I think you would want to listen to this interview more than once. Truly an honor to sit back and listen to this guy, and I'm glad you'll get to do it as well. So here's my interview with Shaka Brown. Now, welcome everybody to the KB Podcast. I am your host, KB, the people's sidekick, and we are here with my guy. I call it, he's my self-proclaimed cousin, because we have the same last name, but I respect this guy so much, and I look at him as a mentor as I'm bringing my way into doing a lot of small market promoting myself. It's just a guy that does everything so well. And I just enjoy watching, seeing what he does, and I just respect the hell out of him. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Shaka Brown. Hey, I could put it on there later. No.
That's my baby daddy.
Okay. So, how you doing, my guy? How you doing?
I'm doing good, sir. I'm glad we do share the last name, as uncommon as it is. When you see that last name, you just know the person's related to you some way, generally by color, but that's cool too.
Yeah. Yeah. How you feeling with everything coming up so close?
Everything coming up so close, I'm guessing you're talking about the Congress.
The Congress, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, I'm excited. I'm excited for the Congress. It's one of those things that each time it comes around, you know, there's this certain feeling that suddenly hits you when you're like 2-3 weeks out and you're like, oh man, it's real. It's real. When you're looking at the numbers, you're looking at the hotel, you know, and you're meeting with the hotel and they're asking you about all the little details, and, you know, it's exciting. I'm really excited. Nervous, excited, same thing.
Hey, look, I mean, but you've been doing it for so long, man.
Since
But still,
2005.
I
Since
know, right? That's
2005.
20 years.
Yeah, we're coming. Yeah, this is our 20th year,
Yeah.
but it's the same feeling every time around. So I tell myself if I don't get this feeling as I'm going into it, then I need to stop doing it. But
Yeah, fair enough.
yeah.
All right, well, let's get this party started. Um, I'm gonna ram it back a little bit, mainly because we have such an influx now of young people in the DMV that's on the scene. Not to mention where we live with the hustle and bustle. We got so many new people that come into this area all the time. Hell, someone like me who hasn't been in the scene that long, who knows you but aren't familiar with the part of the story that we do in the beginning of the podcast called the origin story. Um, where did you do most of your growing up? And did you always like dancing?
The origin story. Let me ask you, Kay. Uh, when is it that you got to DC? You've been in DC about how long?
Oh no, well, living here,
Oh,
I've been
back in.
living here
Yeah.
for over 20 years, but
Okay.
I have not really
But
hit
getting
the
into the scene like this. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
All right.
it hasn't been as long as people think.
Okay. 4 months ago.
Yeah, I know.
No, I mean, I know you've been here for a minute. You've been here for a minute. It's just kind of get an idea of
Yeah, I
where the
understand.
scene was when you got here, so you can kind of say like, okay, I can feel where the growth has been because the scene has definitely been growing.
Yeah, no, it has.
So your question: have I always been into dance? I guess
Yeah.
that's.
Well, before that, where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I'm a Washingtonian. I was,
Oh, my man.
yeah, I was born here in Washington D.C. at when people ask about if I'm from D.C., I'm from the intersection of Florida Avenue and Georgia Avenue, and depending on
Okay.
which way you're coming from, that's also the intersection of where Howard Hospital is,
Yeah.
because I was born right in the parking lot at Howard Hospital University.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've been on the road. I've been on the road since I came out.
It's birth.
Yeah.
All right. And then
Um,
so go ahead.
well, I was born in D.C. However, I spent the first 3 years of my life going to law school because my mother was going to law school in Florida. She graduated from Stetson University down in West Florida, right outside of Tampa, St. Pete area.
Mhm.
And she brought me with her. So I got there and I was on her back as she went through law school down there. She was
Oh,
actually
wow.
the first black woman to graduate from Stetson University. And they have the
Mm.
Black Law Student Association at the school named after her. So, growing up between Florida, I came back to DC when I was 10. We moved back to DC when I was 10. We would always come back and forth because this is where all the family was. And when I was in Florida, people asked me where I was from, and I was like, I'm from DC. And when I came back to DC, people asked where I was from, and I said, I'm from Florida. So that hasn't changed either because I was in DC from 10 until 17, where I went to college, and you can guess where I went to college, in Florida. And so I'm back in Florida now, telling people I'm from DC. Then I
Yeah.
graduated from college and came back to DC and told people that I was from Florida because that was where I went to college. And so
There you go.
DC and Florida,
Okay.
if you want to know my origin, it's somewhere. I won't say between the two. It's one of the two or both.
Yeah, and the reason why I think that this is important to bring up is because, like, I mean, we just saw each other last night, but if you look at Mr. Mambo's and you see all of these young people now
It's
that are just
beautiful.
there, that are just, yeah, it's beautiful. But the other part to that is that, you know, I know some of them, I was walking around doing some recon and I was like,
Us.
I know that you know him. You know Shaka Brown. I know you do, but do you know him? Like where he like his story. And a
So
lot of
you
kids
can
don't
recognize
know.
them. You can recognize them. You can point them out in the lineup. But
Yeah, you can
do you
point
know
out in the
why?
lineup, but that's
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, and I think it's really important that we share that, not just you, but everybody. I think that we have to share that because at some point, I mean, you guys, you especially, y'all are the pioneers, but it's one thing to have someone to, look up to, but to know a little bit more about them to give them even more so of a reason or to get them to be able to relate to you. You know what I mean? Really. So to let them know that they have a chance to do what you're doing, I think is important. So,
No, I hear
all
you. I
right.
appreciate that. It's quite often, people kind of assume that we have this picture of like life, and quite often our
Yeah.
lives are like a picture. It's not a real. And so when it's that picture, you fill in things on the picture, but you may not realize that as you're filling in things, there are people that are coming along that are just seeing the picture and they assume that that picture was always like that. So I think about those first strokes of like the Mona Lisa, and somebody passes by and they're like, yeah, I saw that thing that he was putting up, but it was just a couple brush strokes. It ain't gonna be nothing. And then other people that
Right.
see the Mona Lisa now, and they're like, wait, there was a point in time that that was not existing. So I guess it's fun to be able to say, like, let's look at the origins. Let's look at where things came from. So it kind of like gives you a backtrack so you know what you're looking at now. It's like seeing a sculpture and knowing it came from a block of stone. It's not like
Tell
somebody, it always existed.
it brings everything down too because a lot of people in our community especially they see a lot of people and they think, oh well, they're larger than life. And and it is kind of like a beginner dancer versus somebody who is seasoned and they see that they're seasoned, so then sometimes people feel intimidated by dancing with them. It's kind of the same, and it makes it cool for you to be able to talk a little bit about who you are, because we're going to get into the rest later.
Okay.
But I think it's real important to just talk about you the person. So did you always enjoy dancing, or when not, or did you when did that become something to you, like a passion?
I could tell you, did I always enjoy dancing? Dancing to me has been something that has been a part of my family since before I thought that I could do it myself.
Mm,
My aunt, Dr. Anita Gonzalez, is one of the founding members of Urban Bushwomen Dance Company, based in New York. And I grew up back and forth between DC and Florida, going to African dance classes and sitting there while my mother was there. And funnily enough, that once they asked me to play the clave, and I was all over the place with it. And so they took that back and said, he's not ready to do that. But, that was, I was 7, 8 years old. But
oh man.
but one of the big things that would happen for me, I've always been a big fan of my older brother. And when my older brother was in college, he's 3 years older than me. And so he was in college, I was still in high school. He went to school here in DC. And he would go out to like hip hop parties. This is in the
Mm,
90s, back when hip hop was real and it wasn't a whole bunch
yeah.
of,
Yeah. Garbage.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And so he would dance in the cyphers. So he would be in the circles dancing, and he would always have his bag, and he would give me his bag so I could hold on to it while he's over there, like, spinning around and vibing, doing his thing as folks. And I would just watch him. And then, I would never do anything because, I'm just holding the bag. I'm not trying to
He just
ever
gave you a
get
bag.
inside that circle.
He didn't give you no crates or nothing.
Right. It was just hold his bag. It was just a little shoulder bag, like a shoe bag kind of thing. And so, but I would watch him, and I would watch the dancers and how they went back and forth, and it was all love. Nobody gets booed. Everybody comes in to do their thing, and then you do what you can to support. They come out, and it's just that vibe. I loved watching that vibe, and what I would
Mm,
do when I would go to school is after school I would go into a room in the music center where they had a tape deck. And so I would bring a tape and I would just play the tape of the songs that were, just whatever hip hop songs I had pulled off the radio. And I would dance
awesome.
by myself for like
Oh
an
man.
hour, hour and a half, and remembering the moves he was doing. And I would be on the floor and rolling around and standing up and doing all this. So
Yeah.
then, but this was just my personal thing. From there, I got to college, and there was this girl that I liked, and that so many stories for guys start off with. There was this girl that I liked, and she told me she was in the marching band at Florida A&M University, Florida A&M, Marching 100. And I was trying to find a way to like hang out with her, but she was always in band rehearsal. And if you know the band, you know that they rehearse hard in order to be the best marching band in the country. And so one day, she was outside coming off the field, and I'm standing by her dorm, and I'm trying to talk to her. And I was like, yeah, I wish I could play an instrument, because then I would join the band. And I was saying this as in like, I would be that willing to do it to spend time with you. And then she pulled the rug out. She said, well, why don't you join? I said, well, I don't play an instrument. And she said, well, we have our flag corps, and it's our flag corps is like a military precision 8-foot flagpole. It's called the Dirty Dozen because it was originally 12 guys that were just like known for just rocking. And I said, okay, all right, yeah. I don't have to play an instrument? They said, nah. I said, okay. So the next day I went and I signed up for the band. I had never seen the band before in my life. I didn't know anything about them. I just knew that the school had a band. So when I got out there and I'm learning to do all the awkwardness with the poles and moving around, my hands are burning. It's hot in Florida in August, Tallahassee, Florida. Then we've been doing this for about a week, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting used to this flag. And then they blew the whistle, and everybody's all of a sudden like ran into formation. And I remember the saxophone player, he said, okay, this is the first 8 count. And he starts doing these steps. I still remember the routine. And I was like, what steps? What are these steps? And everybody's like, this is the dance routine. This is the dance routine. And I was completely blowed. I said, the band dances? And people looked at me like I had like 2 heads. They were like, of course we dance. This is the Marching 100. This is what we do. And I was like, I didn't know y'all danced. And so I got out of line. I was like, I can't dance in front of people. I can't dance in front of people. So I got out of line, and they're like, I told them, I was like, I'll do anything else. I can just do the routine. And then, when the dancing comes, I'll just stand to the side. And they looked at me, they said, no. If you're in this band, you dance. So I started begrudgingly learning the steps. And the first 2 games, like, they didn't even let me march because they're like, nah, he can't dance. And people are like, he can't dance. So what's he doing in the band? And then something clicked. And I was like, wait a minute, I could do this. And I jumped in and I just both feet in. I was like, I'm going to own this. I'm going to do this. And from that point, that was when I started dancing in public. So to answer your question, have I always been in a dance in some way, shape, or form? But have I always like committed to doing it in front of people? Not until I joined the band.
Nice. All right. So then when did you progress to start dancing Latin dance like salsa?
Well, remember how I told you how my story started? There was this girl that I liked.
Yep.
So she was a server at a Cuban restaurant called Gordo's in Tallahassee, Florida. And so I was I took my 5 years. I took my time to get my 4-year degree. And so I was in that 3rd year, and I would always go to Gordo's I would always go to Gordo's. And I was a vegetarian at the time. I don't drink beer. And Gordo's was like, they had beer, they had pork, and I would just go there on her schedule to eat rice and beans and plátanos, and I would just always, and so I'm going to this place for a year, and it's the end of the year, and she asked me, she says, hey, are you going to come to our end of the year party? And I said, all right, she's like, yeah, we're going to be roasting a huge pig. I don't eat pork. It's going to be free beer. I was like, okay, you're not selling it to me right now. And she said, and you should come out and then we can dance. And I was like, okay, I'll be there. And so I'm there at this party, and I went with my boy, Kelvin. And so I'm just standing there and I'm watching everybody doing their thing and they're dancing. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do because, I can dance in the band. I've been in the band now, but I just didn't know what to do. And she comes up to me. She comes up to me like this. And she says, Shaka, let's dance. And I was like, I don't
All right.
I don't know. It was that moment, bruh. It was that moment. And my buddy, he looks, he says, "Oh, I'll dance." And then he goes off and he's dancing with her. And I'm looking at that scene. And I'm like, wait a minute. I've been coming here for a year, hoping for a moment, eating food that was okay. And he just walked off with her because he knew how to dance. And it was
You knew
at that
how.
moment that I said, I'm going to learn how to dance. And after that, I went out,
Mhm.
I rented the movie Salsa, I rented Dance With Me, and then I was going through the video store and I got, gosh, what's the guy's name? I think it's Cal Poso. And he had How to Dance Salsa, Merengue, and the Macarena. And I watched that tape so intensely. I'm like, if you want, I can show you some Macarena.
Whatever.
Um, but I watched that thing and I was like, I'm going to learn everything in here. And that was like the launch. From there, I graduated from school. I came back up to DC and then I went to Havana Village for my first salsa class. I think they just closed the doors on the building at Havana Village, but that was an icon. And so this was in '99. I went to Havana Village and I needed a dance partner. I brought my mother with me and I took my first salsa class there. So that was
So who was the
the
person
start.
that taught you?
The class was taught by Leon Harris. And so at Havana Village, they had a few instructors, and Leon's great teacher. He was also great, a big tango teacher, tango instructor.
Mhm.
And there was Leon. He would teach with someone named Ruth. There was a guy named Howard, and this is where I learned so much about the art of teaching because on that Cal Pozo video, he was talking about the crossbody lead, and it just was over my head. Then
Mhm.
I'm in the class, and Leon says, if you know how to do a crossbody lead, then you stay in this class. If you don't know how to do a crossbody lead, then you go over here to learn how to do a crossbody lead. It's such a fundamental move. Well, Howard was teaching that class, and I'm trying to get the feet for the crossbody lead, and I'm just not clicking with it. And then he says, hold on, I'm going to lead you through it. And then I was like, well, I ain't into that. But he, got me in close position and he led me through a crossbody lead. And I said, oh, that's what it is. And I
Yeah.
always remember that because even when I'm teaching people, it's like until you can put yourself in the position of where you're trying to bring somebody, it's not going to work. You can't just tell people, go do this, go do that, unless you've actually
Mhm.
done it and they've seen it and they've experienced it and they know what it's like when the boss says this or when the boss says that. You can't be a boss until you've like learned how to follow, you know?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. To understand.
that was my experience there.
Yeah. This is how we can relate. I'm gonna be real short. We're gonna have to talk about this
Take
later
your
in
time. Take
detail.
your
But
time.
the same thing, like I got into salsa because there was a girl that I liked,
Yeah, this
and
girl that I
like
like.
yeah, and now I'm married to her, and
See? So
and it's
so
like
looks like you
yeah,
did all right with that.
yeah, but I mean, but in the beginning, man, it was hilarious because it's like, um, she told me that, hey, I'm going to go dance. Do you want to go? And so I was like, oh, okay, sure, fine, let's go. And so we went, and this was a while ago. This was '08, I think, '09 maybe, and
Right.
we went to salsa room, and Orlando Machuga, shout out to Orlando Machuga, he was there,
Yeah,
and he taught the class. I didn't think anything of it. I was at the bar drinking, thought nothing of it.
exactly.
And then she goes, "Well, I'm gonna go dance," and I'm thinking, "Well, I'll dance with her.
Yeah.
I'll go dance. I'll be right back." Seconds later, line of guys asking her to dance, and I rarely got to talk to her, rarely got to see her, got to drive her home, but that was
So you were the Uber that day.
I was Word. I was an Uber that day. So
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, well, but at that point in my mind, I was like, well, then shit. If I'm going to do, or if this is going to be anything, I need to learn. That's how I started.
Yeah, you
So,
got to
so
meet
no.
them where they are.
Yep. Yep. No question. No question. So I think we answered really two of the questions. I can hear why or how it became a passion for you. Were you ever on any teams of any kind?
Was I ever on any teams? I was on when I so when I started working back in DC, and then I went out to California because I was waiting for my job clearance to come through. And while I was waiting for the clearance, they told me I could take non-cleared work, and they had non-cleared work out in Santa Maria, California. So I'm out in Santa Maria, which is about 2.5 hours from LA, and I'm like, I need to be doing this dance thing, and LA is like the mecca for dance. And there was Edie the Salsa Freak, and she would have all these posts on Salsa Web and describe the clubs and places to go, etc. So I learned really quickly because I was just immersed in it. Came back to DC, and I left, the guy that was starting to learn how to dance, and I came back and I was like, I know what I'm doing. And the scene was so new in DC. We had a dance team called DC Salseros, directed by Ricardo Loaiza and Elba Garcia. And DC Salseros was one of the two teams really in DC that I can recall off the top of my head. And if I'm missing somebody, it hadn't crossed paths as much. And though that was Salsa Fuego, which was Cecilia Villalobos. And so between those two teams, if a person wanted to be on a team, they had to pick one of those two. And so DC Salceros asked me, if I would dance on their team as they were getting ready for the LA Congress. I had no idea what a Congress was, but I knew LA. And so I was like, yeah, I'll join the team. I like to do that. And so I joined up with DC Salceros, and we performed. Salsa Web did a convention in Toronto. And so I went from not having any idea what a Congress was to performing at the first one that I went to, which was the Salsa Web convention in Toronto. And then going from there to LA. And then from LA, I went to Puerto Rico. I didn't perform in Puerto Rico because by that time I had left the team, but that was the first team that I danced with. After that, I left the team and moved to Brazil. And when I came back from Brazil, Harry Fry had a mambo team. So it was an on-two team. And they went through two names. So the first name for the team was, the second name for the team was Yambu. And
You don't remember the first name?
It escapes me. You know how it is. It'll come to me one day, like 2:00 in the morning. I'm going to snap up and be like, it was Harry Fry's Mamboleros. But right now, I remember the second name for the team. And so that was directed by Harry Fry and Rosie. And so I danced on their team for a while. Then I'm living in DC, so I don't know if you hear the ambulance passing by or the police car or whatever it is. But that's DC. I sleep through it most of the time.
Shout out to DC. Yeah, but yeah.
That's what's up. So then after that, I left the team, and I ended up forming Sai and I. You know him as Sai. I knew him as D at the time. We formed our own team, Clavikazi. And from there, that's how we rolled. So Clavikazi did their first performance at the first Chicago convention, the first Chicago Salsa Congress. And if my head is right, I think that was in 2003. I came back from Brazil, 2001, Harry, then around 2003, maybe 2002, but you can look at, the Chicago web to figure out when that was. So we performed our first routine.
You inside.
That's right. It's me inside. There's some videos out there. If you sneak around, you might find the video.
Okay.
And it was it was under the D. So if you search Shaka and D, you might find it. And we performed to a song that I first heard DJ Bruno, that he can rest in power. He was Presidente Dante by Frankie Dante y su Flamboyant. And so the name of the song is Presidente Dante, and the lyrics talk about the things that he would do if he was president. There would be no more armed forces, and I would end the wars, and the kids would bring the kids back home from and it was just this song about like si yo fuera presidente. And so that was our first routine that we rocked out. And, from there, we kept going with the other things.
Nice, man. Nice.
Things just took off from there, and it's I really appreciate and love those days, being a dance team and actually keeping the name strong for DC, as having like another mambo team, having another team, being able to like bring that new vibe to the area.
Okay. So, now, this is where I think I'm going to enjoy a lot of this part of the interview. So I've been
Uh-oh.
I've been looking forward to hearing, the road that you took to be who you are today, because I see you as a mentor, like I said earlier. And it's like, when did you decide that you wanted to start promoting or start doing your own events?
Decide that I wanted to start promoting. I think all my life that I can remember a joy of bringing people together, and doing what I could to socially lubricate. Actually, when people talk about social lubrication, they're generally talking about alcohol.
Yes.
But I believed in like that in the social lubricant. I didn't even drink alcohol until I was almost 30 years old. But whenever I would have gatherings at the house, I would always have stuff because I wanted people to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think from that vibe, that kind of created the promoter type thing. When in 2001, Dupree and I were roommates. This is after I moved back from Brazil. And we moved into an apartment that was huge. And the address was 1470 Chapin Street. And the moment we went in there, and it had all these big wood floors, and we were both dancers, that we were of the same accord. We were like, this is perfect for a party. We got no furniture. We never got furniture in the place.
Oh, wow.
So, because we were just like, this place is for parties, and that's what we're going to do here. And we called it Club 1470. And in order to get people to come to the parties, we told them that they don't need to do anything but bring an item of food or something to drink. And when neither of us drank alcohol. So we were like, if y'all want something to drink like that, then bring it. But, we're providing the floor. We have the speaker. We'll set that up. But y'all have to bring, whatever it is that y'all want to eat or drink. And so those parties became so popular because I would write these long emails about them. And I guess you know me well enough to know that I try not to take anything too seriously. And so as I was writing these emails, it would just be about the fun of the party. And I remember writing one email once that Dupree and I realized, hey, we're not DJs, because we didn't really know how to play the music for the party. And people would say, oh, play this or play that. And so a buddy of mine, Jim, he's a DJ, and he was at the party, and it was so awkward. He's like, hold on. And he went in the back, and he just starts playing the music that we had, because, he didn't show up to play anything. So he's just going through the CDs that we have, and the party was so lit. It was like,
Okay.
It just went on, and then finally, we've been going for hours, and then it's like a storm broke out. And there's rain pouring down, and so I wrote this long email, kind of joking about how he brought the storm and he brought the fire, and then when he finished and hit play, and then tears broke out. It was just this long dramatic email. And then I told people about the next party, and as a joke, first I'm telling people how to get to the house. And I was like, yeah, you just come down 16th Street, you bust a left here. And I said, if you're coming from up north, then you want to come up this way. If you're coming from Virginia, then you want to take this, this route, take 395. And this was before MapQuest and Google and all that stuff. You had to give people directions. And then I said, if you're taking the train, then you're going to, take the subway to this stop and then walk up this. And I was like, if you get in at the airport, then you want to take this. And I said, if you come in from New York, then you take 95. I just kind of put in all these
Oh
like,
my
you could be like, if you're coming from Pluto, then you head towards the sun, kind of thing. But at one point in time, like the party is going, and I look and I see my boy, he's walking up to the house. And I was like, Ed? Ed lives in Chicago. And so I was like, what are you doing in town? He's like, you invited me to the party. And I was like, oh, yeah, of course. He's like, yeah, I mean, you gave me, the directions were perfect. I flew into here. I took the train here. I got off at this stop. I walked the way you said. And he's like, is it all right if I crash on the couch? And I was like, of course. Whatever it is. And we used to have people drive down from New York. People would drive up from North Carolina just because it was a party.
Man.
Well, David Melendez, he looks at it and he's like, we're going to do a Congress, because David, he did the New York Congress, and he said, I'm going to do a Congress in DC and I want your help. And I said, I don't know how to do a Congress. And he says, you're already doing everything you need to do. I'm just going to arrange to do it in a hotel. And so, that was the launch of like what made it a promoter type thing, and what made me a promoter, because I still had no idea what I was doing. Sometimes I feel the same way now, but it's so important that like once someone sees your passion for something, they can help to align it and say like, here's what else you can do with this passion. But you can't just suddenly make someone feel passionate about doing an event or doing something like that, because one of the things about Congress is about anything. If you try to go into it for like, I want to make a lot of money, so I'm going to do this. I'm not a betting man, but if I were to bet on that, I would say that it's not going to work, because if that's your only drive, it's not going to hold you to do it when it's not working.
Not at all.
So that's kind of what got me into doing the promotion, doing the Congress. And the first 2 times that David and I did the Congress, it was lost a whole lot of money on the first one, lost a little bit of money on the second one. And I remember the conversation that I had with David, and I told him, I said, listen, I don't want to do this, because I didn't agree with the way that he arranged things and, how the money was being spent. And I was like, for all this work to make like $500, from the thousands of dollars that I lost before, this doesn't make sense. And David knew something, because he said, what if I just let you do the whole thing and I just come down and MC? You just manage it all. And I thought I was lucky. I was like, yeah, I'll do that. I think he trapped me. He tricked me into taking over the whole thing, because I felt out of control. And now I was like, if I'm going to be in control, then I'm going to do this the way that I really want to. Mm-hmm. And that's where things took off, because I felt that ownership of being able to do an event, and just anything that I could think of, I didn't have to say like, can we do it this way? Can we do it that way? And so, that made it, that was a big change. That was a big step.
So, I mean, and the other part is like what? Like-minded people, right? I think that, sometimes you meet people along the way and they have that same passion and that same fire and that same understanding that you have to be able to accomplish what you want to. And I think it's just from there, it eventually becomes easier, I would think, right? When you have people like that.
Yeah, I think what you have is that when you have people that are aligned towards the same goal and they share that goal, then they're able to fill in for the things that you are coming up short on. Mm. However, if you have people that are trying to get to something that you're trying to get to, and if they feel like they have to tear you down because they want to be the one that gets there, and not, I want this to be something that is accomplished, whatever it is. I don't know, Simon Sinek mentioned something. He talks about like the Wright brothers and how much they would do so much work because they dreamed of manned flight. They dreamed of creating something that people can fly through the air, and they were willing to put everything from their bicycle shop and get all their friends to do it, and just like, to the knuckles on doing that. Whereas there was another guy who had all the money from the government that said, hey, go and do this. And he's trying to do it because he wants to be famous.
Yeah.
You know, the fact of flight being what it is was not like, I dream of one day people flying. He like, I want to do this because it'll make me famous. And what they talk about is the fact that once the Wright brothers were able to get that flight going, and the other guy who had all the money, he could have come and said like, all right, now let's put more money into this thing that you guys are working on because y'all are getting farther along than I was. That, you know, if you've been able to combine those resources, it could have been beautiful.
Yeah.
Instead, he just quit. He's like, all right, well, they did it. I don't got to do nothing. And so I think that same passion that, for example, that David saw on like, this guy has a passion for making events and what he's doing is bringing people together. You know, I have some finances and I can put my finances behind that and say like, okay, well, what do you do if I can put it into a hotel and you just take over, do the exact same thing you've been doing? You know, that made it so much easier so that I could see that it is possible. So then once David was no longer there, he passed away between the second and the third one after we'd had that conversation about, I'm just going to do it all on my own. And he was still there supporting. He's like, well, what can I do to help? All right. Do I need to talk to any artists or anything like that? All right, we're going to do good. We're going to do good. And it was still we, even though it was no longer like us as like business partners. It was us as friends, us as, you know, doing that same passion. And so that's something I'll never forget.
You know, I'm going to hark back to something that you said earlier, and we may have to cut this because I'm going to be real for a second.
Yeah.
Now, just a heads up, Shaka and I are about to speak on something that some may agree with and some may not agree with. It's not to offend anyone, but since I decided not to cut this section, I wanted to say beforehand that it is to provide an opinion on something we think is important. If you want to talk about this or anything else in more detail, shoot me a line on the podcast website. Cool? All right, let's get back into it. Because it touched me, so I must, say it. So any promoters that are listening right now, one of the things that Shaka said, and I think it rings true, is if you are in this to get paid and that's it, it's not going to likely be what you want it to be. And I feel like it's important to put that out there because our community, if you look at, shout out to Anton and the Mihente website, if you look at all of the events that you see in any week, it's like 30 events. And everybody's trying to do something and it's great and it's awesome to see. But I think that a lot of times the mentality gets skipped and the understanding that, my friends hear me say this all the time, so they're going to probably mute me. But there is no unity without, there is no community without unity. And I think that, we really, or there are some out there that really forget that part of it. They just say, oh, well, I'm going to do this because everybody else is doing it and we going to make money. If that is your thought process, rethink. And that's just, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean that's real talk. And what I've found is that the people that are real about growing something, they're gonna work with growing something because you can't grow it on your own. And at some point in time, even if you did grow it on your own, if your community is so closed that you don't let them expand into the common community, then your mission is off. And so it's not going to last. And so I don't worry about those folks because, like I said, you got to have something wrong with you to keep on doing this, or something right with you about what it is that you believe in. And folks from the outside might look at it and say like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I think about the fact that I've spent 25, 26 years just counting to 7, but I love doing it. I love doing it so much that, it has saved me. It has brought me out of a shell. It has helped me to bring others out of their shell. It's brought people together, and I see beautiful things come from it. And with that, I carry that with me. And so, yeah, I may not have a bunch of commas in my bank account, but you don't carry that
No,
anywhere. You don't carry
and
that
that's the
anywhere.
other thing. And anybody that's listening that understands what he is just saying, that to me, I've known you for a long time. That to me gives me the mindset of wanting to go through a brick wall for you more than anything else. Because that's the importance. Not necessarily always about, because the end result is never going to always be what you want it to be. So if your end result is something that's so astronomical, especially with money, but I feel like, if it's just to bring the people together, that's what I'm trying to do starting in July. I think that is where, you'll the like-minded people, that's when you start getting, something special. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, if you, here's the thing about it. If you're chasing money, you never catch it. At no point in time, we see billionaires, trillionaires, whatever it is, like folks that if their goal is to like, I want to make more money, I want to make more money. Yeah, you can put some money in the stock market. You put $1 million in the stock market and just watch it grow. And then if you never do anything with it, guess what? Yeah, you made a whole lot of money. But what was it for? You never took it out. You're that guy that you just tell him, go bury instead of burying your gold and fretting over it, bury a rock and pretend that's your gold if that's how you want to live. But if each time you do something, what I believe that we want to create opportunities for is to be together, that I can spend, a dinner with my family. That to me is worth anything else. And if somebody tells me like, well, we would come over for dinner tonight, but we don't have any money to, bring some lettuce. You're not gonna be like, all right, well, I guess you
just
can't come tonight to dinner. You're like, bruh, I don't care about the money for the lettuce. I just want you to come and sit there. I'm willing to split what I have so that I can share that with you, and that creates more value to me than saying like, oh, I wish if you hadn't come, we could have had more food per
say it again
person.
for the people in
And
the
so
back. Yeah.
that's kind of like what keeps me
Yeah.
going.
Listen. Yeah. So if you're a promoter out there, hit rewind on that if you didn't understand it. So I'm a walk. I'm sorry.
Run
Run
it
it back.
back.
I'm a walk. So, all right. So on forth to the Mecca, in my opinion, that is the Capitol Congress, the 2025 Capitol Congress. I feel that this
Yeah,
is,
20 years.
yep. I feel that this is a love letter to Latin dance with all the talent that's going to be there. It's going to be nuts. You haven't, you know what? Side note on this is Andreas from Boston. This guy,
Yeah.
I
Johnny
yeah, I
Andres. Yeah.
stalked him for 3 years, and because I would go back to his videos, and and this is gonna sound real creepy, but he would, do these videos with Kelly. I have never met Kelly, but I know her name is Kelly, and
Okay.
they would do all these routines, and I would build a lot of my background dancing just watching him. And I was a big fan of his. And then when I looked at the Capitol Congress list and I saw that he was there, I just lit up. I was like, man, I finally get to meet someone that dance wise I idolized. And I know that there are so many different parts, and I know that your hands can't be in everything. It's impossible. You cannot duplicate, yourself, but that's why you have an awesome team. And but is there anything, without sounding biased, is there anything in particular that you are excited about the most?
Wow. Anything I'm excited about the most, the I'll tell you, well, it's hard to explain this, and so I'm probably going to screw it up the first time I say it because this is the first time that I've said
Fair enough.
it. The Congress isn't for everybody, and I've been working a lot on speaking through a lens of positivity, and so to clear that up, what I mean is that if somebody told me, "Hey, do you want to sell 1,000 tickets for the Congress?" My answer wouldn't be like, yeah, my answer would be to
There
whom?
you go.
Because if I have 1,000 people show up at the event, the part of myself that is wants to bring people together, and I'm saying to myself, I don't know what to do with these people,
Yeah.
because if these people are coming because they're expecting what I want this Congress to be, then I'm going to be disappointed. They're going to be disappointed. And that feeling of people coming to you and you can't give them what it is they want. Because if I wanted to do 1,000 people, I could do rent out a warehouse and do a huge techno event, and boom, I got 1,000 people. I'm happy with that. And I probably make a whole bunch of money, but I couldn't stand the music. I can't sit there. I don't want to be there. And I'm like, no, that's not. If somebody was like, yeah, you can do this every weekend and make a lot of money, I'm running. I'm doing something else. I'd rather just sit in my garden and build, tables and, let me do that. And so what I get excited about for the Congress is each element that we add to the Congress, because we've added things, we've taken things away. I want to make sure that it's facing in the right direction. And so we're doing like a free Boogaloo historical class at the Congress that anybody can I'm like, okay, this is something that I want people to know about, and they can come and experience that. They don't need to buy a full pass for that, because a full pass is not worth what it is that they might be interested in. But they can get their feet wet and see something and see what the culture is, and feel that and say like, that was fun. I love that. And then if there's somebody that says like, all right, I'm picturing me in '99 when I was like, I want to learn how to do this dance and I don't know where to go. Then we have the boot camp. And I'm like, okay, this is an intense experience. You're going to spend 3 hours just really learning those fundamentals. You're going to have that person showing you what the crossbody lead is, why we do this crossbody lead, understanding the timing, hearing the music, learning the protocols. How do you change partners? How do you thank someone for a dance? What is the right thing to do? What is something that you don't want to do? What do you look out for other people? And I'm like, all right, let's do that. And then you're going to get a chance to practice that. So you just give them 2 hours and an afternoon social that they can do it from 6 to 8 and be like, I'm satisfied. Because I think about like you have things like Comic-Con and Dragon Con, and I'm scared to go to Comic-Con because, I've seen a couple Marvel movies, I might have had some Superman comics that I would flip through, or maybe it was Archie, or maybe it was, Green Lantern. I don't remember. If you throw me into Comic-Con, I'm going to be just lost. Yeah. And I can't say like, yeah, I had the greatest time, but there is somebody that is looking forward to that, and they're so excited about that, and they're going to show up dressed like Batman, and nobody's going to be like, something's wrong with that cat. No, he's in his element. And so for the Congress, I want it to be that Comic-Con feeling of, I love salsa so much, and I dedicate my life to like loving and appreciating this music, this dance. I want to know everything about it. And so if somebody said, we're having a class that we can find out what Eddie Torres was wearing when he came up with this shine, and people are going to go. They're like, oh, I can find that out. And so that's what I'm interested in, is like, those are the 1,000 people that if you say these are people that want to do it, then I'm down for it. But I'm not just trying to just bring people to it. And so I'm excited for each of those elements of the Congress, between the boot camp, between the cha-cha challenges for somebody who's like, I just want to dance cha-cha for 5 hours and then perform it. And you're like, boom. I had a student, a former student of mine, and he said to me, Shaka, if you bring Leon here to do a cha-cha challenge, I would be so excited about that. And I was like, all right, well, let me call him up. I'm ready for that. And so that I guess it's those elements of the event that get me, really, really excited, of just saying like, there's a place for each person that is interested in the culture. And then the fact that folks are going to be out there dancing until 5, 6 o'clock in the morning because they now have their zone. Like, I don't have to dilute that. That's going to be just pure. This is for you to like go to town on. I think that's what gets me the most excited about the event.
Other part is like you said, like the free event to start off. You said it was the Boogaloo challenge.
Yeah, it's a Boogaloo workshop, Boogaloo history workshop. I'll send you a link for it. But it's
that's for the guy that has that girl that he likes, where he can come in
Yeah,
and
and it's
say,
like, let's go check this out. You're going to learn about the culture. You're going to learn about New York, Puerto Rico. You're going to learn about Spanish Harlem and Spanish Harlem, right? You know, being next to the Black Harlem and how those interactions created this music. And, you know, yeah, it's so much fun. And then you're going to see like videos and pictures of the artists, you know, guys like from like New Swing Sextet. And it makes it so much more interesting when you hear about the Boogaloo era, and then you go to New Swing Sextet's album, their latest album, where they have a song called like talking about the history of Boogaloo, and you're listening to Angel, and Angel's talking about, man, you don't know nothing about Boogaloo. This was Boogaloo. Nah, that was Boogaloo. Hey, kid, what do you know about Boogaloo? Yeah, you were too young to understand Boogaloo, and it's those instances that get me so excited, which is why like we've had New Swing Sextet at the Congress at least three times, and just being able to like see them talk about, yeah, this is how we used to play, and then we started playing like that, and they have their stories, and you know that's who I want. That experience is what I want. And like Los Hacheros that we had at our last one, and then seeing like Michelle and Julian, who are huge fans of Los Hacheros, actually like get a chance to have Papote give them like a voice setup for their next routine. And so they're able to perform that and have Papote there. The last time we had Los Hacheros there, Marco Ferreño was there, and he was excited because he was performing to a live version of a Los Hacheros song. And so I told Los Hacheros, so you guys need to come in here before the last song, you know, before the last performance. And they usually don't come for the performances. So they came in, and all of a sudden there's people like dancing these beautiful choreographed routines to like a song that they didn't even know was like out. You know, they were like, whoa, we didn't, this was just from a concert that we did. We didn't know that people were like, you know, were able to like take that. And like we said, if you're after money, maybe they could have been like, oh, well, no, he can't perform that to you because that's not on our, you know, but they were like, we're excited to see this. We love seeing people like taking our music and just, you know, doing more with it. And those are the people that we look for. Those are the people that we try to, you know, to bring to the event. And that's the culture that we want to create at the event. And it's beautiful because, as you mentioned about our team, we're the most consistent team that I've ever seen. Yeah. And I'm like, the people that joined our team in 2005 are still there. You know, Irene that handles the performers, she handled them in 2005, and she comes to me, and we're still on it. And you know, that to me is when I look at like who your support group is, and when you see someone's team changing every year, you're like, yep, something's not right. Something is, you know, they're not gelling in some way or another. And it's not implying that they're getting along all the time, that everybody is perfect and happy with each other, but it shows that they're able to share that mission together. And even when things are not working right, they're still going to be able to support each other through whatever it is that they do. And so that's what I love about the event, is being able to like watch all of that happen and giving people like that base of the resource of, you have the support, and what is it that you can do? What is it that you need to be able to continue doing it? What more can we do? And then we just give it a try. And there's, you know, if it doesn't work out, or it does work out, we're still together.
Like-minded, good people bring good people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so when you have like-minded people and people that understand, they're gonna be there for as long as you need them to be there, because they at least know what they're getting out of it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So nah, man.
Yeah.
This is, man. So I this is a good one. So is there, or if there is anything that the current installment, the current version of Shaka Brown could say to the one preparing for his first Capitol Congress? What the hell?
Oh man. You know, the joy of doing a Congress is it's like a video game. You know, you don't expect to beat the game, you know, just the first time you go into Street Fighter. First time you put a quarter in Street Fighter, you defeat bison,
You speak my
folks be
language.
like,
Yep.
wait, you never
Yeah.
lost, bro. You okay? But it's being able to do it each time. So there's so much that I would have to say to the to the Shaka doing it the first time. I think, make sure the AC is right, stuff like that, because, I love when people tell me that they're doing an event because I have a checklist of like, you need to talk about this, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to know what to ask the hotel for, etc. But, if I were to think about over these past 20 years, what would I say to Shaka doing it the that first time is man, wow, is like love it, like enjoy what happens, enjoy what happens there, because the moments in that event, there's going to be things and combinations of dances that will never happen again, like that. You can't put your foot in the same river twice, and so, live that up and don't worry about those little things that you thought were going to be so crucial. I think that's been the biggest lesson that I've learned over time, that even if something didn't work out or they didn't do it perfectly, and people are still there, they're still dancing. We had something that happened once, actually. The first time that New Swing Sextet came, and we lost our sound engineer. We had no sound guy. Like, I'd hired the sound guy got upset and
And
left.
left.
And so we ended up having to, like, literally, it was the closest thing to us. We're asking every single DJ, we're like, we need a microphone, because I've got a sextet here and I got no microphones. I got no speakers. We're grabbing our speakers from the workshop rooms and turning them into monitors and just like doing whatever we can for the band to be able to play. Because when the sound guy left, he took all the monitors, the
No.
mixers, the microphone, everything. So we had nothing, but I had a Grammy nominated band on stage that wants to play, but they don't have any. I mean, their instruments were there, and so, we got it. It happened. We made it happen, and right, when we were looking up there, and I'm watching it, and it was so stressful that, like, after it all, like, I just decompressed afterwards. I didn't even hear the band play because they started playing, they sounded okay, and I went upstairs to do something, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And then I called. They're like, all right, the band's done. And I was like, wait, they're
Yeah.
done? So, but even with all of that, I was talking to a buddy of mine. I was like, man, what do I say? How do I, like, get it so this sound guy never gets hired again? And how do we apologize to everybody about what happened, about the delay? Because, they're supposed to go on at midnight. They probably went on at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, how do I follow up on this? And the guy, he wrote, Richie, he said, wait, the event went off, the band played, people were happy. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to follow up with apologies for something that they didn't even know happened. For them, it started late because they kind of expected it to start late. And so that like, relax. It's, whatever happens, people will work with you, and you're not gonna. I have this like fear that I'm gonna be disappointing people. Yeah, and that's kind of a running thread for me of like, are people okay with this? Are they okay if the stage is not big enough? Are they okay if the dance floor is a little sticky in one spot? Those are the things that I kind of constantly worry about. But keeping that person on my shoulder that says, relax, it's going to work out. It's going
But
to
you
all
know
work
what?
out.
That,
I
that
think
person,
that's what I would
that
say.
person on your shoulder, that's a good person though. Because I feel
Yeah.
like, there is a lot of people that'll just be like, hey, well, I have the venue, I have this, I have that. They'll figure it out. They'll be okay. But no, having
Yeah.
that, I mean, like-minded people, right? I, like you, have that person, and it wasn't even my event, but on I think it was Friday at Cinco de Mayo, and there was two performances. My wife performed. Eric and Kendra, shout out to Eric and Kendra, they performed, and
Oh,
you know, I'm walking around the bar, that area where they're dancing, as if I was the one performing, just to make sure
yeah.
that nothing, that they were okay. And even though in your heart you may say they've been doing these routines forever, I'm sure they'll be fine. That that thought, it not only it builds the character that you are. So nah, man, yeah, I think that that's a good thing to have. That's a good thing on your shoulder to have.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so let me now. Here's the other fun part, and you kind of touched on this actually because you were talking about being in your garden and building. You said a table. So was that you said a table, right?
Yeah, I set a table. I probably set a table. It's yeah.
So what are the other things that people may not know about you that you do other than what they know you for?
Wow. The things that I do that people may not
Besides working
know
for WWE and making tables.
well, I make the table so I can throw people
Fair enough.
onto them. I guess this is around like what some of my hobbies or what is it that I do when I'm not doing what people know me as doing. I have a passion for books. I have a passion for reading. I love to read. I love to write, and I love to build. I love to do. It's I love to construct. I guess it's hard to describe how much I love it. Like I love if somebody calls me and say, "Hey, Shaka, we're going to the mall. You want to come with us?" I'd be like, what? How long y'all gonna be gone? What for? You know, when am I gonna be
Yeah.
back? Where are we going? What time? You know, I'm coming up with reasons not to go. But if you call me and say, "Hey, Shaka, I'm on my way to Home Depot," I'm like, "All right, can I go?" I won't ask how long you gonna be there. I just be like, "All right, I'll meet you over there. Can I go?" And literally, I will. It's walking distance from my house. I will walk into Home Depot with no need to get anything. And I would just walk up and down the aisles and look at stuff and be like, what is this for? What could I use this for one day? Oh man, what I just love being able to have a possibility of building something, fixing something from electrical to plumbing to carpentry. I will watch videos of people doing drywall, you know, just cause. And I don't even try to get somebody, yo, let's watch this 45-minute video on how he drywalls a ceiling. And I can understand if somebody's like,
No, I'm good. Yeah.
no. You're like, no, but you can look at the technique. Look at the technique. So he's got the 36-inch trowel. But that is joy for me. And so, like, when I start to feel stressed or feel like I want to, like, I'm having, accomplishments are coming up short in one area, I say, like, let me stop and go and build something. Even if I make a flower box or planter box or, something for the garden, that to me is like my calming agent. So when people ask what I'm doing right now, I might just send them a picture. I was like, I made this pedestal for a water gallon that I can collect rainwater for now. And they're like, what do you need rainwater for? I'm like, I guess I need to make a garden. And so I got something else I can make. And so that to me, as much as I'm talking about it, you can see how
Yeah,
excited
no,
I
I
get
see
about
it.
it. So
Yeah, I see it. No,
yeah.
again, like I'm a writer as well. So no, I feel as if we try to put everything we can, on the paper what we're thinking, how we're thinking about certain things. I think that in your case, it's like, you know, Capitol Congress, you're building, or you're still adding, you're still, trying to figure out what can I do to make people happy about going to this event that maybe I didn't do in previous years. It's building. It's
Yeah.
all, it is all connected. And with that being said, I have 13 fake cameras around you right now. We're gonna do the hot ones thing. So this camera, this camera, this camera. You got the floor.
You get the
Right,
Matrix
right,
thing going on.
right. You got the floor. Tell everybody after, and especially after hearing, from the person that you are, you know, and this is gives you more time than you did at Miss Mambo's last night because that was awesome. You like ran out and like 5 seconds said everything you just say and ran back. We gonna slow. We gonna slow that shit down.
Oh God.
And tell everybody why they should come to the 2025 Capitol Congress.
I don't want everybody there. I want the people that love salsa the way I love
Yes.
salsa, that love the social dance, that love to hear and experience and be inside the music and have the music just, let them know that everything is going to be all right. And I want those are the people that I want to be there. If that's not what you want, there's plenty of other things that you can go and enjoy. The Capitol Congress. The funny thing is, Tanya said, "I want you to come and say something about the Capitol Congress," and I was standing there. I was like, I don't know what to say, and I was like, what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to say? And people were trying to talk to me, and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't think, I can't even interact because I'm supposed to speak, and I love to speak, but I usually know exactly what I want to say. And they told me, she said, don't chat GPT it. Just say what you feel. And this was like a minute before I came out there because I was like, okay, I need to talk about the boot camp. I need to talk about the challenge and the band. Okay, boot camp, challenge, band. I'll do that. I'll do that. But then when she said, don't chat GPT it, I was like, all right, I got to talk about, why I do the event. That's what matters to me. Because all the other stuff, if people can understand why I'm doing it, they can get all the details, or I'm thinking about I should be apologizing because I haven't, pushed out the themes fast
Right,
enough,
right.
or oh, I'm so sorry because I haven't told people about that, or I should have do that. But I was like, no, this is a dream that I'm doing right now, and every iteration is another chance at that video game to make this perfect, make this. I want it to be perfect, and it's never perfect. I want it to be like an experience that I looked at a video done in like 2011, I think, and I'm watching the folks there, and it's at the same hotel, and it's got Luce in it, and you can tell, she's like, I'm having so much fun. I'm so tired, and I was like, that's what we want. She's like, and I'm going to do it again tonight. Those are feelings, because that enjoyment, that like pouring yourself into it is what gives us La Cosecha, is what lets her say like, this is what we got to put together, that same like family vibe, everybody is welcome, we're going to party and enjoy it, from the first dancer to the most experienced dancer. Anybody that comes, I try to explain even that idea to people. They're like, oh, when's a good time to dance in DC? I was like, anytime you come out in DC, it's going to be a good time because our vibe is there. And you look at La Cosecha, for example, I've been to salsa congresses that aren't that same kind of vibe, that don't have that much like community and love and just intensity. I was talking to a DJ that played at La Cosecha. He's like, man, I can't play 8 salsas in a row back where I live. People would have my head. And I was like, well, here, they're going to have your head when you stop playing salsa. So keep it going. And he was like, that's what I love. That's why people need to come to the Capitol Congress, because that is the vibe that we strive to create, to make it easy for those to do what it is that they love.
Man, there it is. Hey, listen.
And what I say, the band, the boot camp, and the
Yeah,
boogaloo.
it is. Man, Boot Camp
That
Boogaloo.
too.
Yeah, and that shout out to Luz. I love that woman. Shout out to Luz. And the other thing about events like that, events like, La Cosecha, is you have a hell of a, Bala DC, they have a hell of a class that they teach. They teach the class, and a lot of times the people that teach the class is over. I'm gonna get out the way and let the professionals profession, right? But they stay
Yeah,
out. They
yeah,
stay out. They ask people to dance. You dance with them. I just think, like you said, like the vibe is just good. It's just good,
yeah.
and I think that first of all, I applaud you. I mean, my first Capitol Congress was the last one. And
Okay,
yeah,
23.
and I applaud you not just for providing something for the DMV, because I feel like this is, I think Tanya said it last night. This is our Congress. This is ours. And you kind of touched on it where you said, hey, I'm going to bring people from the outside in, but now we got so much interior talent that have just raised the bar here, right? That it's just crazy how it started.
The way I hear you, because what's so, like, what I see sometimes, people say you need to come to this event because of the people that we're bringing. They're way better than and you're gonna see what real dancing is. I've seen people do that. I'm like, nah, not in
I know.
DC. Like, it's hard for me to find people to bring to DC, because whoever I bring to DC, they got to hold up to what we have right here, right now.
Talent.
And so it's like, if somebody's going to come to my house and be like, yeah, I'm going to bring you some mac and cheese, I'd be like, ooh, I don't know if you want to bring some mac and cheese, because when I go in the kitchen, I make my mac and cheese. I know what it is that I'm going to be getting. And when people ask me to bring mac and cheese to their Thanksgiving party, I know what my level
Yeah.
is. And so you bring mac and cheese to my house, don't worry about that. I don't need that. Maybe there's something else. And that's the feeling, because I love watching the work that Julissa does. I love watching the work that David does, because they come up and they continue to give back. They continue to give back, to elevate and keep people with them. They're not trying to say, we want to take our dance company here. No, they're saying, we want to take our dance community
Tell it.
here. And that's what makes me excited for the Congress, because I tell people they need to come to the Congress so they can see how DC does it. And then, we bring in some guests to share it with us, but it's not that DC comes to the Congress because they want to see what it is that they're
Sometimes
missing.
you
No, we got what
tell it.
we got what we
Sometimes
need.
you bring sand to the beach because your beach is better. And
Exactly.
it's simple and put. And to shameless plug, shout out to the incomparable Jalissa Cruz. I'm going to be interviewing her actually this month. And to David Cuevas, I'm going to be talking to him in August. And I think that we just have not just them, it's just so much people. They all just growing. And then you look, just like we talked about with Mambos, it's like you see all of these kids coming up and all of them are sponges and all of them are learning. And it's just awesome to see, man. It's awesome to see.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All
So
right. Well, I know I probably need to let you go.
yeah, it's
You
time to
said you
go.
want me to talk for
So
a half hour. We've been here for like an hour
yeah,
and a half.
hey, listen,
So,
like that.
yeah.
It was an honor. I enjoyed so much talking with you, hanging with you, and I know we're gonna do this again. I know I'm gonna see you. I'll see you later on. I'll see you at Capitol Congress, and you got me.
You said you're going to be talking. You said you're going to be talking to Jalissa next week,
Well, no, soon.
before the
Yeah,
Congress or
hopefully
after the Congress.
before. Hopefully before. If she's hearing
Okay.
this, wink. Hopefully before.
Well, I'll, if she hears it, whenever she hears it, the we are honoring Julissa as a lifetime achievement award. Something that we started doing in 2014, because I went through some things and I realized, the Congress is important to me, and the people that have, supported and been a part of making that event happen. And we didn't give away, we shared our appreciation for 5 people in the scene that have done a lot in the scene. It was, I might fall short in my head off memory, but it was Irene Holtzman, it was Eileen Torres, it was Earl, Go
Go
Earl, it
Godfather.
was Ramiro, yeah, it was Ramiro Parada from Padrino, El Padrino, Ramiro, and it was DJ
Yeah.
Bruno. And so when we developed these awards, it's a brick, a glass, big crystal brick with the Congress logo on it. And that means a lot to me, because if you're trying to build a house, one brick ain't
Not
going
at
to do
all.
nothing. It don't matter. You can have the most high quality brick, but This is the best brick anybody ever made. I went all the way to Italy for this brick. It's like, all right, that's cool. What you gonna do with that brick? You ain't gonna do nothing. But the next brick and the brick after that and the brick after that, those bricks come together. And if you're surrounded by good, solid, strong bricks, there's no end to what you can do. But if the things that you're trying to base and build on top of aren't strong, then it's going to fall apart. And so I said, I want this award has to be something that I want it to sit in their stomach like they just went to Chipotle. I want that heavy brick, you know? And Julissa has been just laying it down in the scene for so long. And when I told someone that we wanted to give them a Lifetime Achievement Award, they said, but a Lifetime Achievement, I'm not done. And I said, it ain't about your lifetime. It's about the work that you've done and how that affects other people's lifetime. You are achieving things in other people's lives. And so I'm really excited. Can I show you the brick? People never get a chance to see it. You know that?
Look at the brick.
So I'm gonna give me a second. I'll be right back. I'm gonna pull out the brick. When you get it, next time you see these things, it was so nice last year. We did it with Paula for Einstein and Titanes Salcedos, because what Paula does. This thing is heavy.
So it is a literal brick. Are you going to hand? Okay.
No, this is a literal brick. I don't know if you can read it in there. Oh, you might be able to. The focus
there it is. Yep.
Oh, boom! Look at that.
Hey, Julissa, you need to go to the weight room just in case.
I'm feeling weak now, but
so
this.
I have a full circle moment for you. That's for sure. So you came, showed me a brick representing the Lifetime Achievement Award from a man who loves building.
Oh man, damn, you done aligned things. So yeah. One day we'll get everybody to bring these bricks together, and we keep building this house. We keep building this beautiful thing. Then you got me tearing up now. I got to go build something.
You got me, brother. I'll carry a brick for you anytime, man. So that being said, thank you so much. We may not be family by blood, but we family. And I just appreciate hearing you talk, because, we're all the sponges, and I just love, especially in the position that I'm in now, learning as I go along. I just, appreciate, and I'm very thankful for having you and the Godfather, Go Earl, and all of these people that have done it for so long that I can lean upon. And Sean, my mentor, we're gonna premiere his interview because before the last Mambo on Tuesday, and it's like, all I can do is keep it level enough so that the others can understand how important it is, and to see how you guys done it. And I have a respect for it, and I respect you guys, and I'm just very appreciative for everything that you guys have done for the scene. So with that being said,
well, thanks for letting us do it,
So nope, I'll see you later on. This was
yes, sir. We're going out. Stop underground.
We will be at underground with we've got Aroko ladies and some crazy woman dancing with them, and then we got Eric and Kendra, who've been amazing. DJ Mambo Soul and DJ Dola will be in the building. He's gonna punch me one of these times for trying to mock him. I love you, Dola. And with that being said, this is KB signing off with Shaka Brown. Thank you so much.
Peace. Thank you.
Man, cousin, thanks so much for giving me a little bit of time for that interview. The Capitol Congress is for sure stacked with so much talent, whether it's local or not local. The next few weeks, we'll be covering the talent from outside our area, and we start with Andres Giraldo from the Salsa Eat Control Studio in Boston. He's going to be wearing a lot of hats. He's going to DJ, he's going to teach, I think he's performing, and I am really looking forward to you all seeing my interview with him next week. As for the events this weekend, Or if you're new and want to see more information regarding every event going on this weekend, stop by the Mi Gente website. They stay updated with the latest changes and tweaks to the events going on this weekend. As for your friendly neighborhood sidekick, well, it starts by the time you are at this point of the podcast. You all should be with me, dressed in red in Chevy Chase, as Mambo Fridays has found a new home at the Heights in Chevy Chase. 8 p.m. begins the salsa lessons, and the social runs from 9 p.m. to midnight with DJ Chica and DJ Mambo Soul at the helm. We're wearing red because the event is dedicated to Gabby Macias, who recently passed away. Saturday, weather permitting, is always a good time for dancing at the waterfront in Northwest DC. The event is from 5 to 9 p.m. and everything from salsa, bachata, kizomba, and zouk, all of it's being played. As for Sunday, we have the Solaris Social in Silver Spring with the class this week at 6 p.m. and it's being taught by Ronald Rios, and the social kicks off at 7 o'clock with music being spun by DJ Dola. Finally, on Sunday night, Bodega Sundays is back at the spot, but it'll be just as bittersweet as what we had to go through this week with Project Mambo at the spot. It will be the last Bodega Sundays. Class will start at 9:30 with the Muse, Eric Turan, and after the class there will be music spun by yours truly. And now, we're at the other part of the program a lot of folks have been waiting for. To everyone that has resided in the land of Project Mambo with us, I'm officially announcing that this next chapter to our story will begin on Tuesday, June 24th. So, this is the soft premiere of our event, where you can find us each and every Tuesday from June 24th onwards. Make note that it's not the true premiere, because that is going to be on July 1st. So again, this is somewhat of a soft debut, so please come out and be the first to find out what else we'll be doing in the future. So, my guess is that you're ready, so here we go.
Keep moving.
¡Échale!
And there you have it. Man, we are super excited to begin this next chapter with you, and we hope that the changes that we make are changes that you all, first of all, understand and are willing to help us through to get to this next chapter. As always, thank you all so much for tuning into the KB Podcast. For all things KB Podcast, you can find episodes on Spotify, YouTube, and on our website, kshay.com. With all that said, I am KB, the People's Sidekick, and I said what I wanted to say, so let's get it.